That was, a magical moment. That evening, I think, is when it actually happened. We fell in love, and then shortly after that, we were a couple. Abba's Björn Ulvaeus and Agnetha Faltskog were not just musical partners. They were also a romantic couple whose love story mirrored the global success of their band. However, their personal lives eventually diverged, leaving fans with countless questions about the nature of their relationship and its subsequent breakdown. In a rare and candid interview, Ulvaeus has finally opened up about his experiences with Fältskog, offering a glimpse into the complexities and challenges they face together. But before we disclose that, let's know more about Björn Christian Ulvaeus, who was born on April the 25th, 1945, in Gothenburg, Sweden. At 6, his family relocated to the small town of Västervik. His father, Erik Gunnar, and mother, Aina Elisa Victoria, tried to provide a stable home for Björn and his sister, Eva Margareta. But Björn's life, even from a young age, seemed destined for something far beyond the quiet streets of his hometown. Before Abba, Björn was already a rising star. He joined a Swedish folk schlager band, the Hootenanny Singers, gaining local fame. While touring with the band in 1966, fate introduced him to Benny Andersson, a keyboardist from another group, the Hep Stars. Their connection was instant. Music brought them together, and in no time, they were writing timeless songs, even before anyone knew their names. Their first song together, Isn't It Easy to Say, was just the beginning of a bond that would later change the music world. Björn's life took another turn in 1969, when he met Agnetha Faltskog during a television special. It wasn't just a meeting of two performers. It was the start of a love story that would fuel much of Abba's music. But that love, like so many things in life, would eventually crumble, leaving a scar that echoed through some of the band's most emotional songs. Through the years, Björn and Benny kept working on music together. In 1970, they scored a small hit in Sweden with She's My Kind of Girl, which became popular in Japan. Even with the success of their early work, no one could have predicted the phenomenon that would come next. Abba was born when Agnetha joined Björn and Benny, and Anni-Frid Lyngstad, Frida, later joined them. The name might have been simple, but the music was not. Björn, the guitarist, took on more roles than just a player. He sang lead vocals on numerous tracks, each displaying different emotions: hope, joy, and later, heartbreak. However, the happiness Abba showed the world on stage was sometimes mirrored in their lives. Once filled with promise, Björn and Agnetha's marriage began to fall apart in the late 1970s. The band's songs started to represent the pain that Björn was feeling. By 1980, their divorce was finalized, and soon after, Abba dissolved. What once seemed like an unstoppable force suddenly felt fragile. After Abba, Björn didn't stop creating. He and Benny turned their attention to musicals, collaborating on projects like Chess and Mamma Mia. These new ventures brought him recognition, but nothing could quite fill the void left by the end of Abba. Even when awards came in, there was always a feeling that something had been lost. Years later, in 2013, Björn and Benny, along with DJ Avicii, composed the anthem for the Eurovision Song Contest. It was a nod to Abba's roots, but also showed how much things had changed. Time had passed, and while the world still loved Abba's music, the people behind it had moved on, each carrying their own stories of loss and change. In 2021, there was a glimmer of the past when Abba reunited to announce a new album and a virtual concert experience, Abba Voyage. After 40 years, they returned to the studio. It was bittersweet, proof that while things can never be the same, some parts of the past are worth revisiting. Björn's personal life, too, went through ups and downs. His marriage to Agnetha ended, but in 1981, he found love again with music journalist Lena Kellishow. They had 2 daughters and lived in relative peace for many years, but even that chapter came to a close when they separated. Change, it seemed, was the one constant in Björn's life. Yet, amid all the personal and professional turmoil, Björn was steadfast. He was more than just a musician. He became a businessman, an advocate for cashless living, and even a spokesperson for atheism. However, despite these new roles, there was always a sense that the past, especially his years with Abba, are always there to put him in trauma. In 2024, Björn found love again, marrying Christina Sass. The ceremony took place in Copenhagen, and although it was a fresh start, it must have felt like how life keeps moving forward, no matter how much we might wish to hold on to the past. On the other hand, we have Agnetha Faltskog, who was born in Jönköping on April 5, 1950, the first of 2 daughters to Knut Ingvar Fältskog, a department store manager, and Birgit Margarita Johansson. From an early age, her life was shaped by music. Her father, passionate about show business, shared his love of music with her. At the same time, her mother devoted herself to caring for the family. By 1955, Agnetha's little sister Mona arrived. But even with a growing family, Agnetha's heart was anchored to music. When she was just 6, Agnetha wrote her first song, Två små troll, 2 small trolls. It was like music was flowing through her veins. She started taking piano lessons at 8 and soon sang in the church choir. Her love for performing grew stronger, and by the early 1960s, she formed a local musical trio with 2 friends. They called themselves the Cambers, but like many young dreams, their hopes were dashed when they couldn't find enough gigs to keep going. By 15, Agnetha had landed her first real job singing for a local dance band. It was the first step on a long, unpredictable journey. She dropped out of school to focus on her passion, though she worked as a telephonist daily. Balancing her job and performance eventually became too much, so she followed her heart in music. After a heartbreaking breakup with her then-boyfriend, Björn Lilja, Agnetha turned her pain into her first big hit. Jag var så kär. I was so in love. Her raw emotion resonated with many, launching her into the public eye. Agnetha's talent caught the attention of record producer Carl Gerhard Lundqvist, who wanted her on his label but wasn't interested in her band. Reluctantly, she decided to go solo, signing a contract with Capitol Records in 1967. Her debut single topped the Swedish charts in 1968, selling over 80,000 copies. It wasn't just luck. Agnetha had found her voice. Though she tasted success early, Agnetha's journey wasn't without its share of struggles. She ventured into Germany, where her fiancé, producer Dieter Zimmermann, had promised her stardom. But the material they gave her felt wrong when she arrived, disconnected from who she was. She refused to sing songs she didn't believe in, and ended the engagement and her pursuit of fame in Germany. She returned to Sweden in 1970 and continued building her career despite a legal battle over a song she was accused of plagiarizing. By 1977, the case was settled, but these challenges could have weighed heavy on anyone's spirit. Agnetha, however, pressed on. In 1972, she took on a new challenge, stepping onto the stage in the Swedish production of Jesus Christ Superstar. Portraying Mary Magdalene was an opportunity to stretch herself as an artist, showing the depth of her talent beyond the pop world. Then came Björn Ulvaeus. They met in 1968, and soon their relationship blossomed. By 1971, they were married, a union that seemed destined to change their lives and the world of music. With Annie Fried Lingstad and Benny Andersson, Abba was born, a band that would skyrocket to international fame. But fame came at a cost. The relentless pressures of the music industry began to strain her marriage to Björn. Their bond, once so strong, unraveled in 1978. By 1979, they were divorced, a chapter closing quietly but painfully. Yet, even after personal heartbreak, Agnetha and Björn vowed to keep their professional commitments to Abba. While the band went on to dominate the charts, Agnetha threw herself into her music. She recorded a solo album, 11 kvinnor I ett hus, 11 women in one house. This project showed the personal and professional complexities in her life. Though it wasn't commercially successful like other Abba's albums, it still spent over a year on the Swedish charts, a testament to her enduring appeal. However, her struggles were never far from the surface. The haunting lyrics of Abba's songs, like "The Winner Takes It All," spoke to her fractured marriage. She poured her heart into these songs, turning her pain into art. By 1982, Abba quietly disbanded, with no grand farewell. Agnetha took a step back, seeking solace away from the spotlight. She recorded duets and solo albums, finding moderate success, but the glitz and glamour of Abba's heyday were behind her. Her 1983 album, Wrap Your Arms Around Me, was bright, achieving #1 across several European countries. But while fans still adored her, Agnetha increasingly sought privacy, withdrawing from the chaos of fame. Success, after all, doesn't always bring peace. Even when she found love again and ventured into new creative projects like the Swedish movie Raskenstam and collaborations with her children, there was a sense of quiet resignation, a desire to be left in peace. She had climbed the heights of stardom, but the toll it took on her was undeniable. After releasing I Stand Alone, Agnetha Faltskog stepped away from the music scene, leaving behind a world that once adored her voice. For 17 long years, she disappeared from the public eye. During these quiet years, she found solace in astrology, yoga, and the peaceful company of horses. Her secluded life on Ekerö Island became a haven. Far from the stage lights she once thrived under, in 1990, Agnetha tried to find love again, marrying Swedish surgeon Thomas Sonnenfeld. But like her music, that chapter ended abruptly. Their marriage lasted only 3 years before they divorced in 1993. Life, however, had more heartbreak in store for her. The following year, tragedy struck when her mother, overwhelmed by despair, took her own life by jumping from the balcony of her apartment in Jönköping. Grief consumed Agnetha, and her pain deepened when her father passed away just a year later. By 1997, a glimpse of companionship seemed to return when she met a Dutch forklift driver named Gert van der Graaf. But even this relationship, filled with hope, spiraled into turmoil. When Agnetha decided to part ways with him in 1999, he couldn't let go. He began stalking her, haunting the peaceful sanctuary she had built. It escalated to the point where the courts intervened, issuing a restraining order and deporting him to the Netherlands in 2000. Yet heartbreak is relentless, and in 2005, after the restraining order expired, van der Graaf returned, once again unsettling her peace. Despite the emotional storms raging around her, in 1996, Agnetha penned her autobiography, Som jag är, later published in English as I Am. She revisited her journey through music, selecting songs for a compilation called My Love, My Life. Fans embraced her once more, drawn to the vulnerability she shared in her story. The book resonated with many and sold over 50,000 copies worldwide. Then, in 2004, something unexpected happened. Agnetha's voice re-emerged, delicate yet powerful, with a new single, If I Thought You'd Ever Change Your Mind. It became her highest charting song in the UK, climbing to number 11. A week later, she released the album My Coloring Book, a collection of covers from the 1960s, songs that she had adored. It was like time had stood still. The world had missed her voice, and they welcomed her back with open arms. But true to her nature, Agnetha shied away from the spotlight, avoiding the extensive promotion that would typically accompany such a release. A successful second single, When You Walk in the Room, reached the UK top 40. But even with these successes, Agnetha kept the distant, only appearing briefly in a Eurovision interval act with her former Abba bandmates. Fans clung to these fleeting moments, hoping for more. But she was hesitant to give too much of herself again. In 2008, another chapter of her legacy unfolded. She joined her former bandmates at the premiere of Mamma Mia in Sweden, a rare moment where all 4 members stood together in front of fans for the first time in over 2 decades. The sight was emotional and reminded everyone of the magic they once created together and how time had changed them. In 2013, Agnetha surprised everyone again with the release of A, her first new album in nearly a decade. Songs like When You Really Loved Someone and Dance Your Pain Away showed a voice that still held beauty and fragility. Her duet with Gary Barlow, I Should Have Followed You Home, was a highlight. And for a brief moment, she even returned to the stage. But the years of retreat had taken their toll, and the public appearances were few. Life never stopped, but its pace had slowed for Agnetha. In 2017, whispers of new music with Abba began to surface. She reunited with her bandmates to record 2 new songs. The nostalgia was palpable. However, like always, Agnetha kept herself guarded. It wasn't until 2021 that Abba officially announced their return with Voyage, their first album in 40 years. Agnetha's voice, still tender and full of emotion, echoed in the hearts of fans once more. Yet Agnetha's life away from the spotlight had been equally complex. Her fear of flying, which intensified after a terrifying incident during Abba's American tour, 1979, kept her grounded for much of her solo career. She was involved in a bus accident in 1983, which only deepened her anxieties. Abba's Björn Ulvaeus finally breaks the silence about Agnetha Faltskog. It all started when Björn Ulvaeus touched the hearts of Abba fans across the globe with his soulful music. He's not just a talented musician. His compositions propelled the band to dizzying heights of fame. However, behind the glitzy exterior, the journey was not smooth like it seemed. The band, composed of 2 married couples, eventually faced deep-seated animosities, especially between Björn and his wife, Agnetha Faltskog. Their incredible talent and breathtaking performances masked an underlying tension that brewed beneath the surface. From an early age, Björn was passionate about music. Before Abba, he was part of a Swedish band called the Hootenanny Singers. Fate intervened when he crossed paths with Benny Andersson from the Hep Stars, forming a bond built on their love for music and a shared dream of creating something special together. They worked closely, producing songs and helping each other's bands in the studio. But Björn longed for more. Soon enough, his heart would find its match. 1969, while filming a nostalgic television special, Björn met Agnetha, a young singer just starting her journey. At only 18, she had recently released her first solo single. Despite her inexperience, their connection instantly ignited a passion that felt like a fairy tale. The two seemed inseparable, dreaming of a future where they could share their lives and music. They married on July 6, 1971, in a quaint village ceremony, with Benny playing the organ. Together, they embraced the joys of parenthood, welcoming their daughter Linda in 1973 and their son Peter in 1977. However, the bright beginning quickly became overshadowed. During this time, Björn and Benny were forming their duo, known as Björn and Benny. Yet something was missing. When Agnetha and Benny's girlfriend, Annie Fried Lingstad, joined the mix, Abba was born, a partnership destined for iconic status. Their success was phenomenal. With chart-topping hits that captured the hearts of fans worldwide, their music resonated deeply. Songs like People Need Love launched them into the spotlight. Still, their victory at the Eurovision Song Contest in 1974 cemented their place in music history. Touring the globe, they basked in the adoration of fans. Yet, amid this whirlwind, cracks began to show. Behind closed doors, Björn and Agnetha were struggling. After returning from the Eurovision contest, a poignant moment arose when they found their daughter didn't recognize them. They had been away for nearly a month, and that disconnection cut deep. The band wanted to be there for their kids, but the pressure of fame weighed heavily on their marriage. Agnetha faced nightmares, fearing the fans would take everything away, while Björn tried to be her anchor. Despite his efforts, the relentless expectations took a toll on their relationship. The strain became unbearable when Abba reached the height of its success in the late 1970s. They separated in early 1979, officially filing for divorce in 1980. While they tried to present a united front, claiming they had a happy divorce, the truth was far more painful. Their music began to display their inner confusion, leading to the creation of The Winner Takes It All, a haunting song that told the story of their heartbreak. Writing the lyrics was a cathartic experience for Björn, filled with raw emotion. Yet, performing the song was another challenge. The audience erupted when Agnetha sang, "Tell me, does she kiss like I used to kiss you?" But the line stretched the definitive end of their once beautiful relationship. After their emotional performance in 1981, Björn began a new chapter, marrying again and having 2 more children. This transition deeply hurt Agnetha. In her 1997 book, she reflected on the facade of their happy divorce, admitting that the pain stayed long after the separation. While Agnetha struggled, seeking therapy to cope, Björn masked his pain through music. He later acknowledged the difficulty of divorce, saying there were no winners in their story. The weight of their separation also affected the rest of Abba, because tensions within the band grew. This turmoil ultimately led to their dissolution in 1982, after a decade of remarkable achievements. The once bright flame of Abba dimmed, leaving only memories of their incredible journey. In recent years, the band reunited to create new music, and a documentary titled Abba: Against All Odds explored their complex relationships. Though the past is labeled by sadness and heartache, Björn and Agnetha are always there to inspire fans, telling them that sometimes love doesn't last, but the music lives on. Well, what's your favorite Abba breakup song? Share your thoughts in the comments below.